On this episode of AV Week, we are coming to you from the show floor of InfoComm 2019 in Orlando, Florida. We cover diversity, technology, and where the industry is headed. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 408, recorded Friday, June 14th, 2019. Live from InfoComm 2019, Part 1.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by BIAMP, and by FSR, and by HD Base T.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. If you are watching the video, you can clearly see that behind me is the show floor of InfoComm 2019. If you're not and you're listening to this, the audio is slightly different. So yeah, we're coming to you from InfoComm 2019, Friday edition. If you've listened to these in the past, this will be a round-robin cavalcade of characters and personalities. With me, first and foremost, our host for this week, Mr. Dave Labuska, CEO of AVWeek. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And also with us is Mr. Mike Blackman from the ISE Integrated Systems Europe show.
Hey, Mike. Good to meet you.
You too, Dave. Sorry, what did you do?
Okay, these two are going to be an interesting couple. So, not for nothing, but the reason we have Mike on every year, technically, Mike works for AVWeek because AVWeek is 50% owner.
He is my boss.
Is it that this year? He's your boss this year?
As of tomorrow, as of the 1st of July.
Okay.
1st of July.
So he's not your boss yet?
I still got a couple of days.
Okay, let's make the most of it. Dave, let's start with you. This year, again, AVWeek, the InfoComm show bounces between Orlando and Vegas every other year. This year felt like a little bit of an addition to last year. And it's felt like that since the recession. Somebody made the comment to me on the show floor this week. Isn't Orlando always usually a lighter year? And I actually had to correct him because not since the recession, pre-recession, absolutely. The numbers bore that out, right? Orlando was typically a down year, numbers-wise. I'm not going to ask you the numbers. We're not there yet. We're recording this at 2 o'clock Eastern on Friday. But this felt like, ever since the recession, there has been an increase, at least in attendance, every year. So Vegas to Orlando to Vegas to Orlando, there was an increase. Did it feel like that to you? Did it feel like, not just a little bit busier, but a little bit more energetic, year over year?
Absolutely. This show this year, from the outset, with a VJ that is mixing video and audio and pumping up the floor. You just stand there and watch people dancing into the trade show floor, and dancing out, which is probably more a sign of the energy. If after you've spent 8 hours on a trade show floor and you're dancing on your way out the door, the energy is across the attendees, the exhibitors, our partners, everybody I've talked to talks about it. Dave, I'm not sure what's going on. The place just feels alive. Yeah. The exhibitors are, I just was at an exhibitor's office and they felt like they have about double the leads they had last year. It's a great show. It's easy to measure a show by numbers, and it's impossible to measure a show by energy, but you can feel a show by energy. And nobody's leaving this show without remembering it. They all felt it.
I will give you, I stopped by an exhibitor on the way back up here to the studio. They told me they have tripled.
Look at that.
So, not to one-up you, but...
No, listen, I'm looking for the one that quadrupled.
Yeah, let's find them. Mike, you come to this show every year. The one thing I find fascinating, as we've been doing this and as AVNation has been covering both ISE and InfoComm, are the number of attendees that are not in country, I guess is the best way to put this. So as we've covered ISE, the number of North American visitors that you have seems to increase every year.
Absolutely.
And at this show, the number of non-North Americans seem to increase this year. Every year. What do you attribute that to?
Actually, I attribute to the fact that as we're growing as an organization internationally, that people are actually being more aware of all the other shows. Now, the year before last, I was walking the floor, and then I saw some guys, and that evening I saw them in the elevator in my hotel. And they were Americans, and I just assumed they were exhibitors or potential exhibitors walking the floor. I got talking with them, and they said, we're integrators. So I looked at them, I said, what are you doing here? Don't you go to our InfoComm show? They said, yeah, but this industry is moving so fast. If we want to keep ahead, we need to go. We need to be here at ISE, or they'll need to be at InfoComm US or InfoComm in China. So I think it's the fact that this market is moving so fast and developing so quickly. Those people who want to keep ahead are going to all the shows. I don't have the numbers, but my feeling for the people I'm seeing on the show floor that I know from Europe is there are more Europeans and more international people here. That's just my feel at the moment.
Well, mine as well. We, Matt Scott and I went to the AV Magazine get together last night. AV Magazine is a great publication out of the UK. You know, they had, I would say, probably 50% more attendees to their, you know, again, that's not a great metric, but it is a metric where you can look at the get together of the folks that are from Europe, connected to them already, and they're here at the show and they're hanging out with them.
And I think that's the other thing as well. I've seen more European exhibitors here, and obviously they draw some of their partners as well. Yeah. We have key exhibitors and partners from ISE who bring groups here. Dave and I do a welcome every year to German groups, and there are groups from other countries as well coming in. So yes, there is more coming in. I believe it's the fact that the group is growing more international.
Right.
So let's build on that for a second, if you don't mind. I'm going to actually use that to sort of segue to the overall diversity of the show attendance. I mean, almost all the time you'll hear one of us make some comment about, well, you come to the show in order to see the future of the industry, right? And usually when we make that statement, we're talking about what the exhibitors are bringing out, what type of solutions there are that are being introduced to the industry. But this year, what I want to really use that phrase, the future of the industry, about is the fact that we don't have the solid demographic, but about 40% of the people here are under the age of 40.
Wow. Okay.
And that may not, well, to my sons, that sounds like, okay, so you still have a whole bunch of old people here. But that's a significant shift in the demographic, and I think it showed. I did actually hear that from a number of people. We've got a younger crowd here. From a gender diversity perspective, we had a women's of AVWeek breakfast yesterday morning that we had to bring in more tables and chairs to, because we had set the room for a couple hundred, and there were more people that came to that breakfast than ever before. Wow. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, we had a diversity reception at the AVWeek booth, and we had probably 100 people there celebrating the diversity of our industry. The types of people that are coming to this show are actually and I almost forgot to mention the AV Career Day program that we have, where we've got college students in from around the country that went through not just walk the floors and go, wow. They walked the floors, but they went through tailored educational programs. They're spending time in workforce development seminars. Yes, it is the future of the industry from a technology perspective, but I think far more important for the future of our industry is the diversity of the people that we brought.
Yeah, I'm going to attribute this to a friend of ours, Heather Zadorowicz. She's an integrator out of Buffalo, and she tweeted something this morning in relation to diversity. She said, this is the first time at InfoComm she's ever had to wait in line at the women's room. Now that's somewhat funny and cheeky, but it's an honest to goodness assessment of how much that has how much the female population has grown.
Yeah, we're not our work's not done, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
We have a lot. I'm not sitting back and saying, okay, let's relax. We nailed it. We've got a lot of work to do with regards to advancing the diversity of our industry, and in the core of that is the creativity of our industry. But it is evident that our show and the gathering of the community here is reflecting a far more energized, excited, and diverse AV community.
Yeah. We're seeing the same in Europe as well. And we provide a platform for AVWeek and the other organizations to actually help promote diversity. And we're seeing, we grew from 2018 show to 2019 show from 11% of attendees being women to 13%. So not only larger numbers, but a larger percentage of that audience. We're doing more active things as well, working with AVIXA to encourage diversity and activities. We're setting our target to actually have the biggest women's event as well.
Good.
We've got,
Good.
it's the good thing is we've got people in our organisation who are actually engaged in making this work. And when it comes to the future AV professionals, we've actively put on the same programs which are run by AVIXA and CEDIA at ISE to actually create the same platform and show people what's the potential for careers in this business and show how exciting it is. I mean, look at all that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Mike, you were part of the first diversity program this year. I want to say it was back in March at the Royal Society of Medicine.
Yeah.
A year ago, AVIXA started the Diversity Council.
Yeah.
My buddy Kevin McLaughlin was a part of it. He works at the Royal Society of Medicine, spearheaded that event. How important are events like that to gather people together and have honest conversations? I mean, you moderated a couple of panels. Some other people did some presentations. But how important is it to have honest, open conversations about some of the challenges that folks face, whether they are handicapped or they're racial or gender diversity?
I think that it's important to be open because it doesn't make any sense to bury our heads in the sand that there is an issue.
Yeah.
But it's having that conversation gives us ideas of how to go about changing things. And hearing, if you don't have the whole picture, if you don't hear how many issues there are from the different sectors, then you don't know how to approach it. So, it was eye-opening for me to hear some of the experiences that the panels we had there and the discussions we had, and it got me thinking, saying, well, actually, we can make things change. We can do this, we can do that. And it may be just a small change, but it's a start. So it's important.
And it's important just to start, even though it's the old adage of how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
Yeah.
You don't go after it all together. Dave, we'll start with you on this and ask you both kind of the same question. Where do you see the industry as a whole, both globally, because both of you have a great vision for the global market here? Where do you see the industry going globally in the next year or two?
We just published our industry outlook trends analysis report for 2019. I can tell you that that research sizes our industry at $247 billion globally, growing to $325 billion by 2024. So if you do the math, that turns out to be about a 5.7% CAGR. Where that's growing or how that's growing, it's really across almost every vertical, as all of us know in our lives. It is a continued adoption of unified communications technology. At the core of it, the world is becoming a more and more connected place, and virtually, no pun intended, every one of those connections is dependent upon one of our members.
Yeah, Mike?
Just touching on what Dave says, people ask me sometimes, what do you do? And I try to explain, and I said, we touch everything. Yeah. It doesn't matter which sector, everyone's starting to use AV. And so it encourages me to actually say, well, this is the potential for our shows and the organization to grow and expand. So looking at corporate, I think that's the biggest sector where it's going, retail, hospitality. We're actually reflecting that in some of the ideas we're putting forward to actually help promote to those people. A lot of people who are we don't see as directly in the industry, but affected by it, that we need to bring to our events or bring into the association. But we need to make ourselves aware to them, or make ourselves aware to their sectors. So I think I'm in the best place.
Yeah, absolutely. One more year in Amsterdam for ISE. Anything new, exciting, or obviously you guys have something new every year. Yeah. Anything you can talk about now, sitting right here in June?
I think lots of things. You're going to see. Our goal is to leave Amsterdam with a bang. Yeah. We want to show this is the best show ever when we go away from there. And we have the commitment from the RAI that they will do their best to make sure that we go out on a very high note. We're working at the moment with the government of Catalonia, with the mayor of Barcelona, with the Madrid government of Spain as well, to bring in groups from Spain. So we said, okay, let's start the ball rolling. Let's tell the Spanish community what ISE is about, so that when they go back and do this word of mouth, so when we come there in 21, have an even bigger crowd coming in. So we've got some nice ideas for a closing ceremony. We're going to have an interesting keynote to open up as well. We're going to launch a couple of new conferences. We have control rooms. We launched last year our hospitality conference, digital cinema, and we have some other ideas, working very closely with the associations to create that content. And lots more that we'll be able to tell you about in the next couple of months.
All right, very good. Mr. Dave Labuscus from AVIXA, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
How do people get a hold of you or AVIXA if they
They can email me at dlabuscus@avixa.org, or they can tweet and follow me at David Labuscus.
All right, very good. Mr. Blackman, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
How do people get a hold of you or ISE?
So I'm at mblackman@iseurope.org, or you can also tweet me at ISE_Mike.
All right, very good. Yeah. All right, part 2 of this special edition of InfoComm 2019 has me joined by a very distinguished panel here. First and foremost, stop looking, John. John Ivey from Atlas IED. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Mr. Brock McGinnis from Westbury National.
Afternoon, Tim.
Afternoon, sir. Whose team, we're recording this on Friday, his team won their very first championship, the NBA champion Toronto Raptors.
We the North.
We the North. And last but not least, Mr. Jeremy Caldera, whose Blackhawks was nowhere near the NHL playoffs.
That's a true statement.
Yeah. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Good. Actually, Jeremy, we'll start with you on this.
Sure.
InfoComm is a big week, big show. You've been here since last Saturday teaching courses. So you can give me education, you can give me the whiz-bangs, gazintas and gazautas. What wowed you this week?
What wowed me is just a variety of different things, which ironically much was not tech-wise, right? As always, I'll give props to John. I love his speaker. That's awesome, the SHS. But most importantly for me, and it was an instantaneous purchase for me, but I'm that kind of a buyer, I guess. I'm the one that the salespeople love, was the software package I looked at, which was the X10 stuff. So I was a big fan of that. So I know you guys had sent that over to me to look at and evaluated it and sent my guys over. They loved it. They sent me over. Bought it on the spot.
Real quickly, if somebody's not familiar with X10, what is it, and then what wowed you about it?
It was interesting for me because for a while as a small integrator, I've had a lot of trouble with finding estimation software. And I've been looking for that for a long time, and they can be incredibly expensive. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars in some regards. So that's primarily what I had been looking for. But then when I saw that I can do that with the software, as well as tie in all my pricing, as well as do proposals, cut sheet submittals, and then the fact that it does line drawings and rack elevations, and I'm interested to see what the accuracy is. I'm sure it's going to be good. I'm sure that it's going to need some tweaking. You know what I mean? Everything's going to have a little bit of change here and there with just the way design works. But I think if it gets you to that 90% point, then it's paid for itself in my mind. So,
all right, Mr. McGinnis, anything? What hit you this week?
We geeked out over a number of things. Things that make our job as integrators easier. Chief's column mount for TVs has been something we've been waiting for a decade. We've kludged things together for a long time. And so that was a great product. I really liked what FSR has done with their new FloorTrack product. It's easy to order, easy to spec, unlike dealing with an electrical wholesaler and all of that stuff.
Or cordialing for that.
Yes. Loved how some of the manufacturers have stepped up their demo games, both more entertaining and less about specs and more about applications. And I'll mention Bose in particular because I thought they did an amazing job of coming to the pro community and saying, hey, we've had a bit of a sketchy relationship with the pro community, but we're listening, and here's what we brought you, and here are applications. Not a spec, nothing. Just some pretty good sound out of most of those products. And people seem to be getting LED a lot better than even they were 6 months ago. The image processing part of it. I think that the bigger manufacturers, the Samsungs and the LGs, just keep getting better and better. But we saw a plethora amazing LED this week.
That was one thing that I kept, especially after the first 2 days. I saw some interesting things today as well, but the first 2 days of the show, not to be, no pun intended, the one thing that kept hitting me was the visual, right?
Yes.
It was the visual part of this show. Because you had things like the LG, and everybody's seen, and if you haven't, we'll put a link to this, the Wave, the LG Wave, right, and
Yes.
the different applications. Christie had a interesting new LCD panels as well for digital signage, and
Yep.
Samsung brought their wall yet again, which they're still continuing to tweak that and make
Yes.
that a little bit better.
And keeps looking better and better.
Yeah, which is odd, isn't it? That the fact that they announced this a year and a half ago.
Yes.
Right, and every time I see it, they keep tweaking it, and it keeps looking better.
We're in a golden age for visuals. I don't know how things get much better. Those 8K TVs,
Amazing.
oh my gosh.
I've never seen anything like it. It's
Never seen
fantastic.
anything like it.
It's fantastic.
And how do we get content? How do we change what we're doing from a production perspective in order to meet the quality of display that's now available to show it?
Yeah.
So.
John, Brock mentioned the fact that a lot of manufacturers are talking about solutions, not just specs. That's one thing that you did as well in your booth. Michael Piefler and I from Atlas talked about the fact that your booth this year was specifically set up for solutions. When you come into a show like this and you look at your previous booths, inevitably all of us do this. We'll do this at AVNation. What do we do well? What did we not do well? Right? When you were coming into this show this year, did you guys specifically say we want to talk about solutions, and why?
Well, the why is we have 2,200 parts. So in the past, we've brought hundreds of different demo pieces. And we put them on display and we talk about them. And really, as our company's evolved, we've gotten to the point where we want to provide the full solution for the customer. So we want to be the sound masking solution. We want to be your paging emergency notification solution. We want to be your IP speaker endpoint solution for your K through 12 or higher education. So we are coming with a full software, hardware suite, and approaching the industries that way is we can be your partner for you integrators and provide most of the audio side, if not all of it. And some of the visual now too.
And some of the visual now too, yeah. You were giving away something, and I want to kind of hone in on this. You were giving away a Chief motorcycle.
An Indian motorcycle.
Sorry.
Indian motorcycle.
Indian motorcycle.
Yeah.
Oh, they're making those again?
They are. So we're OEM for Polaris that owns
Okay.
Indian.
Yep.
They're made in America. So I thought it'd be a good way to reward my customers and the people that attended the show to bring one here. It's sitting on our booth.
very
In fact,
cool.
it's happening in 20 minutes.
In 20 minutes. Okay.
20 minutes.
Thief River Falls, Minnesota?
Yep.
Yeah. So you're bringing an you brought an Indian motorcycle to tie into the Made in America.
Made in America. TAA, BA compliant. Hundreds of products made in our factories domestically.
And that's the thing, tying into yours as well. When you talk to customers, is that becoming more important, less important, or is it about the same?
Oh, it's way more important because of tariffs.
Yeah.
So we have customers that have come to me at the show and said, John, we have bid your products out 3 months, 6 months, 2 years on a large airport project. What are we going to do about the tariffs?
Right.
And so we have domestic products, so U.S. steel made here, here being Texas or Illinois or Kentucky, products that can substitute in if they had specified something else. And we're working with everyone to try to not have a little as impact as possible. My view on tariffs, and I think a lot of people would agree, it is a federal mandated tax. There's nothing I can do about it, right? The U.S.
Correct.
government has come and levied this tax on us, so we have to pay that tax. And unfortunately, it gets passed on to the end user, one way or the other.
It has to.
It has to.
It has to.
So
It's not the manufacturer's fault.
Yep.
It's not the integrator's fault.
Yeah.
And we can't possibly absorb that.
Yep. So we're trying now, especially at this show, we're showing a lot more of our TAA, BAA, Made in America products, just in case there is a situation where they need to cross something over.
All right, very good. Brock, one thing that we talked about with Dave Labuscus and Mike Blackman was the diversity part of this show, and the honestly the growth that this show has seen in certain segments of the population that 10 years ago was either non-existent or a very small percentage. How important is it for this industry to expand its borders?
Oh my gosh. It's a global marketplace.
Yeah.
And even within our own countries, the United States or Canada, we have global customers. and people from everywhere, and the inclusion or the making sure that we're in a position to reach out to every segment of a marketplace. It might be another language, it might be another cultural way of doing business, but my favorite comment on the diversity at the show this week, Amelia Vrabel's tweet this morning that said this is the first time she's ever had to line up at the ladies' washroom.
Yeah, okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic. We're getting there. We're certainly getting there.
Absolutely. Jeremy, as we wrap up here, when you look at, you're heavily involved in the AVIXA leadership and in education and stuff like that, where do you see this, not just the industry, but AVIXA as an organization heading in the next year or 2 years?
I see more global expansion.
Okay.
I mean, we've got great representation within the United States. Everybody knows the brand, everybody knows the education, but now we're going to start seeing more and more. I know on the CTS side, they're working on language translations for the CTS exam, as well as a lot of the courses. So that's only going to get better and better, and I think just that expansion and that global reach is what's going to really grow the most, I think.
Very good. Mr. John Ivey from Atlas ID, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
How do people get a hold of you or Atlas?
Well, I don't want them to get a hold of me, but they can get a hold of Atlas by.
It's difficult to get a hold of
I
you.
want them to talk to Gina now. She
Yeah,
is
there
so
you go.
much
Or
prettier,
Peter.
better looking. Yeah, she's just better at my job than I am.
And we would prefer to.
Yeah, right. Everyone would prefer to talk to Gina. But it's atlasIED.com and Atlas IED at Twitter and Facebook and things. Oh, and by the way, I second. The coolest thing I saw at the show was X10.
Yeah.
And they won 2 awards at the show.
Yeah,
So,
heard that.
and all of that goes to AVIXA standards. So when I saw it, I was very happy to see that that whole industry is evolving.
Yeah, and I'd given them some suggestions too on even how to change, and they were very receptive to it. So that's what I really liked about them as well. So.
All right. Mr. McInnes, how do you get a hold of you?
I'm at westbury.com in Toronto and at Brock McGinnis on Twitter, or just phone.
Jeremy, how do people get a hold of you?
iastechnology.net or Jeremy_Caldera on Twitter.
Very good. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me. I'm still celebrating the Blues Stanley Cup victory. For us, for AVNation, go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others and all of our coverage of InfoComm 2019. Also, while you're there, check out our supporter section. These are the folks who help us financially, help us bring you InfoComm 2019, and John Ivey and Atlas ID are one of the main ones, so we thank him for his support. So all that and more at avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.